Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Panorama Consulting review of our Clash of the Titans report. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope you find this interesting and informative. So my name is Alan Salton. I am the Director of Innovation at Panorama Consulting Group. I come here with about 30 years of experience on ERP projects with a number of different ERP vendors as a consultant, a project manager, and officer, and the Director of Innovation for a European ERP vendor. One thing before we get started I want to bring to everyone's attention is that we are going to offer a free 1-hour consulting session with our experts to the first 3 responders after the webinar. So at the end of the webinar, we'll give you some details about how to qualify for that free 1-hour consulting session. So a little bit about who we are. Panorama is an independent and agnostic niche consulting firm specializing in business transformation and enterprise software services to mid and large organizations, both public and private. Our core services include software selection and implementation, business process management and reengineering, human capital management, digital strategy and transformation, technology assessments, project recovery and project auditing, ERP expert witness, financial and operational restructuring, M&A integration, and turnaround analysis. So pretty much from an enterprise consulting perspective, everything especially around software processes and organizational change management. The markets we typically serve, you see over here on the right: manufacturing, technology, professional services, healthcare, retail, energy, agricultural, F&B, and government services, but not just limited to that, but we also work with financial services, nonprofits, and a number of other firms. And for 20 years, our experts have provided insight and guidance to organizations looking to optimize their performance and accelerate growth. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is being able to bring insight across segments. So things that we learn in manufacturing can also have some application to other verticals, as an example. So we have a wide variety of client success stories, both private and public, and we pride ourselves in bringing insight and value across segments. So a small sample of our clients you see here below, everything from small to mid to large, national organizations, global organizations, pretty much the entire spectrum where there is a requirement for some business transformation, digital strategy, or enterprise software services. Our research and experience has created a wealth of knowledge about enterprise software vendors, the packages they offer for pretty much every market and every niche. We have an industry relationship team that maintains our knowledge base of software packages, capabilities, expertise, their methodologies, and their practices. And these are just some of them that we've actually worked on and where we have deep experience and where we've been able to help our customers achieve success. So what we expect to do today, so this is an annual activity that allows our team to recognize changes in trends, activities, developments, and the value propositions of these specific large vendors. And so we'll provide kind of an independent and objective comparison of the tier 1 vendors, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, and Infor. We try to help you understand where they're strong, where they have weaknesses, where they fit best. So you can make some good decisions about maybe a path that makes sense for your organization. So we'll analyze these vendors in terms of customer selection, implementation, and some of the project results that their clients been able to achieve. And again, one of the things that's super important is that you have realistic expectations of these companies, of what they can do for you and what your requirements are to make them successful in your environment. So a little bit about how we do this. So, well, first off, as we're aware, this has been an unusual year. The appearance of COVID-19, the subsequent impact on business and the economy has had some impact on data collection and customer responses about expectations. We found, in fact, that we've heard that many companies that expected to have a drastic drop in performance instead has noticed a profound growth in online business, and they foresee that trend continuing. And I think what you're going to see is some of the responses we had is a consequence of people start thinking more digitally, more about e-commerce, more non-traditional in their expectations about how their business will go. So these responses started in October 2019 and went through September 2020. It was self-reporting and polling done via our website, and we had 116 business professionals that have selected or implement SAP, Oracle, Microsoft. And again, as we mentioned before, it's a broad range and breadth of companies, and there's a lot of insight that can be brought from one to another. So quick oversight about these four vendors and some of the things that have been going on. So SAP is actually the vendor with the largest single share of the ERP market in the world. And with that financial strength, we've seen an increased investment in innovations like in-memory computing, AI, cloud delivery, and their core digital product, which we'll get back to in a second. Oracle is actually the number 2 ERP vendors in terms of market share in the world, and they have a full stack of cloud options. And many of their businesses, many of their clients' businesses come from data-intense environments like banking and healthcare and retail. And as a consequence of that, you'll see that a lot of the products, a lot of the service they delivered is focused around that data-intense environment. Microsoft is a bit like a chameleon. They reinvent themselves every few years to keep up with the changing environment of technology and their customers. And their latest reinvention is Microsoft Dynamics 365, and especially in this area, Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. And what they've done is they've invested heavily in the product, developing a digital core, but also they're unique in that their offering spans everything from PCs and Office applications to service and database, ERP applications, and even down to the data center activities themselves. And then Infor has made some strategic investments in industry-specific solutions. So they've done a good job of looking at required functionality for each of the verticals and developing that for them. So a little bit about kind of what's going on with SAP and what we see is new and how that's impacted the Clash of the Titans report is that SAP announced that mainstream maintenance for the core applications, SAP Business Suite 7, what's called ECC, that mainstream maintenance will be phased out in 2017, although they'll have extended options for maintenance, I think, until 2030. But now what they've done is they're moving everybody to their SAP S/4HANA application, which provides a digital core for advancing organizations. So what we're seeing is in an area of connectivity and data, they have really kind of got their customers thinking about digital business based on the new digital core. So with that, we see their customers focusing more on the digital business transformation. We see some of the customers focusing on more data-intensive things like PDM, product data management. And because there is, it's a large, robust product that it has a general application and this new digital core, that their projects tend to be the most expensive. Oracle, Oracle, like I said, is the number 2 vendor in terms of market share, but Oracle is also transitioning its products and its customers to a new generation of cloud-based digital core products. So again, we see the same kind of thing that their customers are moving to their new products, they're moving to the cloud. Now, because the complexity of some of the Oracle products, because of their data-intensive focus, there is more of a use of external resources, i.e. Oracle people or third-party implementers than internal resources. And again, that's a reflection of the fact that their market focus on banking and retail, healthcare has tremendous amounts of data. And with that, the customers focus on PIM, product information management functionality. So think of PIM as product information from a customer or stakeholder perspective rather than from a development and manufacturing perspective. The responses that we've seen come from organizations using Oracle Fusion, Oracle EBS, the Oracle Cloud applications they're developing, Oracle NetSuite, and JD Edwards. Microsoft, as we mentioned, the latest transformation of Microsoft is to Dynamics 365, and for larger organizations to Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. What we're seeing is that first off, most customers are using a best of breed strategy, and in a second I'll explain kind of what's driven that. A lot of them are focusing on e-commerce functionality because a lot of the small to mid markets are just beginning to start looking at extended enterprise and using the web, especially in this time of COVID-19, as a channel to market, and a lot greater use of their internal resources than you'll see with SAP or Oracle. And because some of the customers are a little smaller, that's the least expensive ERP project. So, Microsoft has a very extensive ecosystem of partners, of VARs, of implementers that add a considerable number of extensions and enhancements to their core product. So if you are looking for industry-specific functionality that isn't in the core, there's such a large number of partners in the ecosystem who can bring that technology to you, which reduces the cost of the core ERP implementation. And the other thing is there's a substantial number of Microsoft-trained resources in the market. And Microsoft has made their technology readily available to lots of people to get trained, and that also drives down the dependence on external resources and allows for their internal people to do more of the implementations. So we talk about Infor a little bit. So Infor has a suite of cloud solutions, and they focus on producing solutions for single industries. So it's very vertical focused. And those vertical solutions have a large range of functionality that kind of matches what that vertical is. And that works well with customers who have a well-defined market strategy. So if you are a manufacturer, and you are a make-to-order manufacturer for those industries that say, hey, we want to focus on manufacturing to stock, then the Infor is going to have a good product for those customers. If they're ones that are looking to do engineer to order, there's a different set of functionality for that ETO kind of customer. Because of that, most of the customers are using the single ERP rather than best of breed because the functionality they require in their vertical is contained in the solution. A lot more of them are focusing on EAM, that's Enterprise Asset Management, than others. And the reason is that if you are a manufacturing company and they have a legacy based on manufacturing, then you have a large investment in assets, machinery, CNC machines, manufacturing facilities. So the ability to manage the assets, to do predictive maintenance, be able to track the maintenance of those assets become very, very important in that manufacturing heavy customer base. So when we go in and we talk to our clients about how do you evaluate the ERP vendors, there's a handful of things that we like to stress. One is software functionality, current software functionality, and the future roadmaps. They're going to map to your future business strategy. So we live in a world of accelerated change, both in terms of the economic environment, in terms of the technology. So it's important to look at software functionality. Does it meet the requirements you have now, but also the requirements that you're going to have in the future? And with these kinds of investments, your ERP vendor will be someone that you work with for a number of years. So it's important to understand that they're developing their technology and their tool set in the same direction that you want to be able to develop as well. So deployment options is another very important factor now because we're moving more and more from an on-premise deployment to a cloud-based deployment. And cloud means lots of things to different people. So it could be as simple as having your ERP server hosted on a private data center. There are private clouds, there are public clouds, there's multi-tenant cloud solutions where many customers are residing within a single instance or single tenant. So, and we have now hybrid solutions where certain functions will sit in a public cloud, others in a private cloud, maybe others on-prem. So depending on what your requirements are, there's different deployment options that make sense for you. Of course, vendor and product viability. I think ERP historically has seen lots of mergers, lots of acquisitions, a lot of products that have, kind of outlived their usefulness and have kind of been sunlighted. So it's important to look at the vendor, the product, the viability, the future. So these are things that we suggest you think about. But an informed decision requires insight into business processes. It also requires some cultural alignment between what the technology does for your company and for your customer base and how you match that. It's important also to define future requirements and understand the competitive, technological, and macroeconomic situation that your company finds itself in to make sure that you're making the right choice. And then all of this becomes, critical to establish a digital strategy and identify where ERP fits into that puzzle. Because what we've seen, one of the biggest changes in ERP over the last few years is that they have moved from being a transactional-based system, all about, quotes and orders and work orders and purchase orders and invoices. They all do that fairly well. The distinction between the packages now resides in the digital capability. Reporting, analytics, and connectivity. So let's talk a little bit about some of the findings that we found from our report. SAP implementations tend to have to be the most expensive and have the highest cost. And part of that is because there's a diverse set of products that can be difficult and expensive to implement, and they're transitioning to a new and perhaps not quite mature digital core. And for companies moving from an older on-premise version to something that's pure cloud, pure digital, and what that means, there's some adoption and adaptation that has to happen. And there are kind of a one-size-fits-all. So SAP has wide range of functionality and it's very robust, but you have to make sure that the large breadth of scope and the complexity can be sculpted to fit your company and your processes and make it as intuitive as possible. Microsoft, on the other hand, is the least expensive. So they have a smaller set of core products and markets. And again, they have a large partner ecosystem. They focus on a Microsoft technology stack. So again, when you look at the skill sets, they're all Microsoft focused, whether it's from a programming to a server to a OS, or if everything is just moved to the Microsoft data centers and supported through Azure. And again, they tend to have smaller customers in terms of users and revenue than SAP does. So some of the things, again, that you need to consider when you try to determine what ERP system fits your business strategy. So the first thing is, based on your requirements, based on your future plans, based on your cultural alignment, is it a single platform or a best of breed that makes the most sense for you? Best of breed probably gives you wider and deeper functionality, but you have a more of an issue around integration, maybe different interfaces, maybe not quite as maintainable as easily as a single platform. The database choices, some of the database stuff now it doesn't really have as much impact as before, especially in cloud-based solutions, because then in the cloud they're maintained through the providers. But it's something that a lot of companies who want to do their own analysis want to be able to look at the database and make sure they have the skill sets to manage that. The vendor cultural fit. So what we're seeing is, since this is a long-term investment and a long-term partnership, it's important to find somebody that has a culture that's similar to yours, that with the same value set, with the same understanding of the value stream, and a long-term common vision. And then this idea of prioritizing your functional areas. So whether it's human capital management or product lifecycle management, supply chain management, there's lots of opportunities for improvement. The new systems with the new digital core, with a lot of functions as a service, platform as a service, things like analytics as a service, you have to be able to prioritize where you're going to start, because it's going to be very difficult to take all of these features, all these functions and all these features and implement them at the same time. So prioritize what's most important to you. You have to look at internal factors like organizational alignment, your core competency, your investment expectations. That's going to have some impact on how you prioritize what you're going to implement, where you're going to get the greatest value. And when we talk about these digital products, you have to understand the changes in the value creation that these digital products can influence. That the fact that it's no longer good enough to meet your customers' expectations, but in fact to use data and analytics to anticipate and maybe even influence what their expectations are going to be. So as we look through the results from our report, what we see is that there's kind of a, you'll see the different product sets over here, and we can look at what they are from warehouse management, human capital management, enterprise asset management, product information management, ERP, product data management, supply chain management, product lifecycle management, e-commerce, customer relationship management, manufacturing execution systems, and transportation management. Some of these packages do a better job, and the ones, frankly, that are like Infor ERP is the most important because it's so industry specific that they encompass a lot of these products within it, rather than trying to add different products. And what you'll also see is certain industries, like manufacturing, will include the supply chain, the human capital management, the PDM, the CRM, the WMS, the MES. So those products, those initiatives are focused more in certain industries, and certain of these products do a better job or in those industries than we'll see in others. Internal resources versus external resources. So when you go through a selection and an implementation, there is cost involved, and there's an internal cost in terms of having your resources available, and external costs, which means bringing in people from the outside. So Microsoft customers typically use the most internal resources. Again, it's the standard Microsoft technology stack that allows for more self-service. It's a larger number of trained people out there in the workforce. They've done itself a real service over the last years by making this technology available to a wide range of users and partners, and therefore the skill set is pretty widely available. Oracle customers use the most external resources. There's a lot of products. It tends to be involved in complex, data-rich environments that requires more expertise. So kind of where we are in this thing, to kind of sum up, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, Infor, they each provide a really robust ERP system. And what we're seeing is some of them are doing a great job in real enablement of digital transformation. And depending on your industry, depending on your strategic goals, depending on your core competency and technology competency, and then you should make a selection that makes the most sense for you. And each of these vendors have their strengths and weaknesses, whether they be a functional weakness or strength, or cultural, or in terms of product roadmap and digital strategy. So you've got to look internally first, and consider your organizational challenges, and not just internally, but also externally. So if you look at your company and your competitive environment, your financial environment, the regulatory environment, there's a large number of factors in this kind of current assessment that you do to understand how the software will align with your organizational goals. And one of the most important things is to understand that if you want to be successful, and the way we define success is that this project, these packages help you meet your corporate strategic objectives and goals. And to do that, you have to understand the tool is only as good as your internal strategy, cultural alignment, and your ability to execute. So, it's kind of the old idea of if you don't have your processes, your strategy, your people in place, and you put in new technology, all you'll get is the same results, maybe faster, maybe prettier. But it's important that you step back and align your strategy with your tactical ability to execute. So there's a lot more information about the report, including information on business transformation, best of breed versus single RP, available on our website, panorama-consulting.com. And then, as we mentioned before, our free consulting hour. So to qualify for the 1 hour free of consulting time with our digital transformation experts, visit our website, panorama-consulting.com, enter the code free hour along with your comments and how can we help section, and someone will be in touch with you. And finally, if you'd like to reach out to me, here's my contact information. Again, my name is Alan Salton. I'm to be reached at alan.salton@panorama-consulting.com. And we welcome your comments and questions. So with that, we did have a couple of questions that I wanted to just kind of follow up on real quick. So let me read these questions out to you, and then we'll kind of give you our viewpoint on where we are. So how are you seeing Workday competing with these 4 products? So Workday is on an accelerated growth path. It has strong functionality for core financials, for planning, analysis, and human capital management, all in a single package. So it makes it a really strong contender for target markets like financial services, government, healthcare, insurance. And it provides a really good backbone for best of breed in many other verticals. So if you want to have a real strong financial HCM planning analysis package, and then use that as a backbone to build extensions for manufacturing or life science or something, that they've done a really good job. Another really interesting player here is ServiceNow. So ServiceNow is kind of a workflow platform that kind of changes the way organizations structure work and customer engagement. So something else I think we'll be looking at in the future. Second question, our accounting is not complicated, but our reporting needs are. What can we do to ensure that the system that we select is still, in fact, able to deliver the reporting that we need? So, a key part of any selection process should focus on reporting and analytics. The thing that we certainly recognize is that data is the new jet fuel of the new economy. And the new changes in value streams is generated from how companies use this data. So it's important to have a data strategy. It's important that this data strategy has a tactical component, which is reporting, and that has to be part of any enterprise information effort you put forward to make sure that you get the information, the analytics you need out of it. A lot of times what we suggest is you kind of start at the end by what is the data, what is the information, what's the reporting I need out of the system, and using that as a goal, work backwards to develop a selection strategy, an implementation strategy, and a data and reporting strategy. So next question, how can we ensure that the ERP consultants understand the needs that we have before they commit to the implementation? So when you go through your system selection process, you should document all the project goals, which should also be tied to your corporate goals, whether that's growth or customer intimacy or organizational efficiency. Those goals should be documented. That's part of your selection. You need to understand your functional requirements, your future processes. As we mentioned before, all of your reporting needs, including your KPIs, what kind of data migration plan you have, and what your IT footprint looks like. What systems do you have? How are they tied together? How do you want them to be tied together? And when that's all been documented, before your implementation consultant starts, you should be able to hand over these documents to set the proper expectations and criteria for success before they start. Next questions. When should we make the decision to make custom reports versus using an out-of-the-box solution? Well, I'm going to say that this question is becoming more and more irrelevant because the newer systems, the better systems, the data resides in the package. The question is, how do you make it into useful, relevant, timely, complete, and accurate information? And what we're seeing is these systems have very good capabilities and more advancing all the time in terms of ad hoc reporting, BI capabilities, either internal or external, things like dashboards. And so what we're seeing is that more of the things that you would need in terms of custom report should be able to be produced with the tools they give you by using for instance, BI to slice and dice the data to give you in an ad hoc format the information that you need. Final question. Do you have any views on which solution is perceived to provide the best business process coverage by industries like manufacturing and retail? Well, the first thing is you need to look at your specific requirements first, to make sure, because it's not like if you are a life sciences company and there's a life sciences package, that's really going to meet what your needs are completely out of the box. So understand your specific requirements, but then you are going to see that there are some of the packages do better in with vertical solutions like Infor, which has a large group of vertical solutions for manufacturing, for distribution, for healthcare. So when we look at the vendors, we look at their target markets, we try to understand where the best fit is in terms of standard functionality. We try to understand what needs to be modified or customized or configured and how that impacts long-term cost of ownership. So, there's no easy answer, but, due diligence and proper insight into the packages will really be very helpful. So with that concludes our presentation. Again, I suggest you go to our website, www.panorama-consulting.com, download the report, and register for your free hours of consulting. So thank you very much and have a great afternoon.